Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Help Is Here podcast, brought to you by the Compulsion Academy. So in the past, I used to do the same stuff that everyone does when it comes to quitting porn. And to be honest with you, I was quite happy doing it until I inevitably relapsed. And this is where most people are at. Most people who follow this content, they're actually doing quite well when it comes to quitting porn when compared to the rest of the world, when it compared to maybe your average person who looks at porn very often. And so they're doing all right, and then they're feeling quite happy, and then they end up going and looking at porn and just feeling absolutely exhausted, tired, frustrated, and just like annoyed and down with themselves. And that's exactly where I was. And so I made these YouTube videos in the past, and I used to talk about my top 5 tips for quitting porn, and it would just be a load of self-improvement stuff which you're probably trying as well. You know, I tried it and I was really addressing those symptoms of the problem, maybe like low confidence or having a busy mind, feeling distracted, things like that. But I wasn't actually solving the root problem. Now, fortunately today, I have learned a very comprehensive method to deal with any desire for anything and always be in control of myself moment by moment, which is amazing. And I really want to help more people get to this position where they're actually free from this permanently for good, and they no longer feel like they need to do all these different self-improvement hacks and tips to try and quit an addictive behaviour like looking at porn. So with that being said, let's get into tip number 1, which is about meditation. And I'm just going to be reviewing this old YouTube video where I talk a load of nonsense, the same nonsense that everyone else is unfortunately also talking about. Last year, I continued to struggle with a few bad habits. And so I spent months and months trying to figure out, what's the actual solution to this? Because I'm sick of hating myself. I'm sick of feeling rubbish. I'm sick of being ill-disciplined, and I want to live a happier, healthier life in 2023. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about just 5 habits that you can, implement straight away that are going to really help you quit porn and quit any other bad habit as well. So without further ado, number 1, meditation. Meditation is absolutely essential, not just in terms of the actual impact it has on the brain and the chemistry, the neuroscience, but just in becoming more aware and a little detached from our thoughts, because we have about 7,000 thoughts a day. It's a lot of thoughts, and yet many of them can be from the past. Many of them can be very irrational. Many of them can lead to some very negative feelings and hatred of ourselves, and we want to really sort of see those thoughts as something a little further away, a bit more distant, and not get so involved in them, especially if we're trying to quit porn, because we're going to have cravings, we're going to have urges, we're going to have thoughts about looking at sexual content, and instead of being overwhelmed by those thoughts, we can see them for what they are, which is just a temporary thought. Right, I'm going to pause it there. So in the past, I remember literally there would be times where I would meditate for a whole hour, and then afterwards I would go and look at porn. And I think that example is going to illustrate my point better than anything, is that you can meditate for as long as you want, but when you're living with a compulsion, what happens is that desire doesn't go away until you change your thinking. And so if you've got the thought about porn just persistently going on, you can really get into your meditation and you really focus on your breath and try and sort of detach from the thought, see it as this distant thing that's totally irrational. But that desire, that wanting, that craving, you may be feeling it in your body or whatever and may be aware of that, but it's not going to go away because you've not actually changed the thought patterns. Now, when you learn that thoughts create feelings and feelings create your actions, that's when we're going to start actually dealing with the thoughts and changing the thoughts, transforming these thoughts and dealing with them effectively so that we can actually change the addictive neural pathways for good and gain permanent mental freedom, rather than doing this temporary thing of just seeing them from a distance and trying to kind of escape the thoughts and detach from them, which isn't actually going to change them, which means that the addictive desire, that compulsion is just going to continue indefinitely. You've not actually really changed what needs to be changed, and that's why meditation is not useful. But I'll continue playing this video and let's see what else I say in the past. And we can see our sensations, our urges as temporary as well. So meditation is really, really important. I would recommend doing it every single day in the morning, around 10 to 20 minutes after you've woken up. So you just sit down, choose a chair, choose somewhere to sit, make sure you have a very specific location that you're going to sit,
choose a time that you're going to meditate for, and then choose how you are going to go about your meditation, and then just do it every day. Get a journal and write down, meditate for however long you want to meditate for, tick it off each day, make it a habit and stick to it all year round. My personal goal is 20,000 minutes of meditation. That works out around an hour a day, every day this year. I've already started off with 3 hours in the first 2 days, which is helping me get a little bit ahead with my meditation target. And I am feeling good. I'm feeling happy and healthy. And it really, really does help me, because no matter what's going on externally, I know I always have my breath. I always have that that bit didn't go so well. I always have my breath to return back to, and that feels good.
Yeah, so again, I think the problem with that video and this advice about meditation is it's really setting yourself up to have these really rigid conditions in your life where you feel like you have to do something every single day. I mean, I was talking about like doing 20,000 minutes of meditation, which is an awesome goal. I didn't actually achieve that anyway, to be honest with you. But the point is, it was this thing that I felt like I had to do. And that itself is not freedom. You know, peace of mind comes from really just genuinely feeling in control of yourself, not feeling like you have any sort of conditions that you have to adhere to. And instead, you're just free to do whatever you want, moment by moment. You're the one who has the choice, and so you don't need to do anything to try and stay on top of your porn addiction, because the only thing you really need to do is change the addicted thought patterns and deal with the urges when they come, and most of the time they're not going to appear, and so you're actually going to be feeling okay anyway. And then it's just like, if you do have the urge, all right, well, let's think that through, make a choice, move on with my day, simple. And then you have all this space and time to actually focus on what you really do want in your life, and maybe building the life that you want, rather than trying to do all this self-improvement stuff as a cope to deal with an addiction when it's not actually changing the addicted neural pathways. Anyway, let's get on to tip number 2. Hopefully I won't get a phone call during this tip. If anyone's watching on YouTube, you'll know what I'm on about, because I just picked up my phone and I was like, what's going on here? And had a call from a random number. So hopefully tip 2 will go a little bit better. Let's get into it.
Every single day, grab yourself a journal. Last year, I talked about my journaling a lot. And this year I've got my 2023 journal again, which I absolutely love. This is a game changer. You know, I write down my goals every day, like 6 goals in here every day, talk about how I'm feeling. And again, it's just so useful to have, because it will help you direct your life in the direction that you want to go. And you don't want to write about stuff you want to avoid in your journal. You want to write about the things that you actually want. Focus on what you do want, not on what you don't want.
So what's really interesting about journaling, you know, I talk about write about how I'm feeling there. Again, quite similar to the meditation point. If I'm just writing about how I'm feeling, but I'm not actually changing those thoughts, like creating those feelings, it's all sort of in vain. You know, I remember in the past I'd write down how I'm feeling and I'd be feeling pretty terrible. You know, I'd be feeling frustrated and agitated because there was this thing I wanted to do and I felt like I couldn't do it. And so I'd talk about all of that in my journal, and I'd talk about all the low confidence, lack of self-esteem and feeling anxious and other things like that. But it wasn't actually changing how I felt at all. You know, maybe I got better at being observant of it and not being quite as involved in those feelings. However, those feelings continue to exist. Now, the alternative, of course, what I'm doing nowadays is actually dealing with compulsive desire correctly and changing the fundamental thought patterns that lead to the compulsive desire and lead to addiction. And so because of that, now I don't actually experience low confidence. I don't experience low self-esteem. I actually feel very in control of myself, very confident, very happy, very connected to people, and I no longer experience the anxiety that I used to have in social settings from time to time, especially after relapsing. So yeah, I just want to get across again, you know, you can write and think about how you feel, but unless you're actually changing the thought patterns that lead into the feeling, you're just going to continue to feel that way anyway. And then eventually what's going to happen is you're probably going to return to porn, because you're like, I want to get out of these feelings. I'm so sick of this discomfort. Nothing's changing. I just want to get out of it. And so even if you do a great little streak on the NoFap, you're going to be back at porn, and then you're back in the addiction indefinitely anyway. So let's get on to tip number 3, and let's see what I'm talking about in this one.
Set yourself some goals. If you want to set yourself some goals and you don't really know how, I have a really good little template for how you can set your goals. And it starts with identifying your values first. And so on your screen now, you can see around 80 values. Now pick 5 of these values.
I actually really like this exercise, to be truly honest. If you are listening to this, you won't be able to see these values. So I'll just go through my own personal top 5 values, which are making an impact. So in particular, like a positive impact, feeling connected to people, feeling compassionate, having curiosity, and being creative as well. And this was part of a workshop. I think it was on maybe like leadership and development, or maybe it was marketing. I can't quite remember, but I did this like online workshop. No, it was actually in person. Yeah, it was this workshop in person in Manchester. It was in Hardwick, and we had this guy called Jack, and he was really good. And we did these exercises, and it was all through work. And yeah, you had like these 80 values. So it starts off with like achievement, adventure, ambition, attractive, balance, beauty, being connected, calmness, caring, coaching, all these different things, right? All these different values that people may have, or different words. And what you would do is you'd like cross off these values until you got down to your final 5 values. And these 5 values were meant to be the values that you'd always had since you were really, really young, like what always been kind of deep inside of you. And it'd really help you reflect and unlock what's most important to you. What's quite interesting actually is I did this exercise not long ago with a client of mine, just because he has already really gone beyond compulsion, I would say. You know, he's dealing with his desires correctly, thinking them through, changing his thought patterns and changing the addiction neural pathways. So we did this exercise, and one of his values that stood out to me was integrity, because I think integrity is something that a lot of people lack when they are living in a porn addiction, because on the outside they seem very successful and maybe well put together, but then on the inside often they are experiencing a porn addiction, and they're experiencing the shame and low confidence, lack of self-esteem, anxiety, feeling frustrated with themselves, and many other really challenging emotions essentially. So, you know, one of his values being integrity, it made me think, yeah, well, no wonder he's here having a coaching session with me. He obviously chose to learn how to quit porn correctly because he wanted that integrity, so that when he can go out in the world and be around people, he never feels like he has to hide from others, like this part of him that looks at porn, right, and has this addiction. So anyway, this is a really good value. So a really good exercise, you know, going through your top 5 values, and I think it can impact every area of your life. When you know those 5 values very clearly in your mind, you can then set up your life and your work to focus on those values more. But I'll continue to play the rest of this video and see what else I say about having goals, because I'm sure most of it's actually going to be very, very irrelevant to actually changing addicted neural pathways and quitting porn for good.
And then think about what goals you can create centered around your 5 values, because you want your goals to be meaningful. So often in the past, I'd have goals around maybe like making money, or like some kind of external goal which wasn't really related to who I am as a person. It didn't really connect me with other people. It didn't really connect me with my values. And so I really do believe you should start with your values first, and then once you have identified your goals, you set them, write it down somewhere, definitely write it down, and then come up with a really, really solid process for how you will go about achieving those goals. I like to use a what-when method. So you write down what you will do to achieve those goals, and then when you will do it. Fill those boxes in, and then go ahead and do it. And that's as simple as that, okay?
So what's really interesting about that piece about having these goals is I actually did set myself some goals in 2023, and they were on the screen just then if you are watching this on YouTube, and I didn't achieve many of those goals. And in fact, I don't think I actually achieved any of them. There's one reason I believe that I didn't achieve any of those goals. I don't think it's a lack of discipline. I don't think it's that I didn't work hard enough. I think the truth is I was addicted to porn. In 2023, I had addicted neural pathways. I hadn't fully understood how to go beyond compulsion and quit porn for good. I think I did one streak last year on the NoFap of around 150 something days. But as I say, that isn't peace of mind, that isn't freedom, because I still had the compulsive desire due to the thought patterns that I had. And so I did not achieve any of my goals. Whereas now, right now, you know, I am achieving my goals and more in life. I am sort of exceeding in some of the areas of my life which I never thought I'd exceed in. I just quit my job literally, you know, over the last few days. Had my leaving due last night, and it was really nice to sort of be around the company and feel really proud of myself, the work that I've implemented there over the last 10 months or so since I learned how to go beyond compulsion and really get in control of my desires. Because once you're fully in control of yourself and your mind, and you know and trust yourself, in your desires. Like, you know that you can deal with any desire and overcome it and think it through correctly. Once you're in that position, you feel really empowered to actually take other steps in your life and actually start to implement things in your work, which maybe you would have been a bit afraid of implementing. And because of that trust in yourself, you also feel more prepared and ready to take risks because you know nothing is going to get in the way in the future. And I think it's building that trust in myself by learning how to deal with desires correctly that has enabled me to get to a position now where I feel really confident and optimistic and excited about leaving my job and building a business full time, because I know and trust myself that in the future I am going to be productive. I'm going to create the things that I want for my clients. I'm going to ensure that my clients do it, actually have success and overcome porn for good. And I'll be able to do all of those things because, one, I've done it myself, but two, nothing can get in the way of me in the future from achieving my goals because I'm always going to be in control of my own mind. So the only thing that could potentially get in the way, well, I don't know. I don't think there is anything that could get in the way. External challenges will come up. There's no doubt about it. I could have a loved one die or any shit could happen, right? But I don't think there's anything that could get in the way of me managing my own circumstances correctly. And I think that's the main thing. And I think having a stoic approach where you focus on being rational, making decisions for yourself and doing your very, very best is the place to be. So with all that being said, let's get on to point number 4.
Number 4 would be to delete social media. Social media can be very distracting. I think you get too much sort of dopamine from it. You're comparing yourself to others, or at least I have done in the past. And really, it just doesn't help me achieve what I want to achieve in life. So I still have some social media, but I've at least deleted the apps from my phone. And I'll only really be going on social media when I actually need to either post something or to communicate with friends or to set up events for certain things in my community near me in real life, like on Facebook. But other than that, there's not really much point in social media as far as I'm concerned. I really don't buy into like the following and liking people. It's really just objectifying people, which is not something I really want to be a part of at all.
So yeah, a point on social media, again, deleting the apps off my phone, it's me just trying to avoid doing something that I want to do. And the truth is that once you're in control of yourself, you don't need to delete apps off your phone. You don't need to put blockers in place to quit porn. You trust yourself. You know how to deal with desire. So nowadays, I think I do have social media. I don't really go on it. I don't really care. I don't think about social media at all. What do I have? I've got Facebook, and have I got anything else? I think I've just got Facebook now, and like my photos from like 3 years ago, and I never actually go on it. Although I had to change my birthday on it because everyone was wishing me happy birthday, and it wasn't my birthday. But anyway, that's a long story. So yeah, I think I've got Facebook, but I don't think I've got any other social media. I've got YouTube, I guess, but I only really go on that to post. And yeah, I just don't think about social media anymore. So I think deleting social media or not deleting social media, it's like once you've gone beyond compulsion, like once you've become in control of yourself, you no longer need to like think about deleting things, because you just know moment by moment what are the consequences of me like going on social media and scrolling on here, and you just think that through and go, yeah, obviously I'm not going to go and scroll on Instagram or X or TikTok because that's just a massive waste of my time. Like, that's not something I'm going to choose because I know that's going to lead to more desire, and I'm just going to want to do that more, and there's literally nothing there. It's like some silhouette or shadow. Like, there's nothing to gain from scrolling on social media, in my opinion, other than taking you away from the discomfort of withdrawal, because you're probably addicted to social media. At least I was anyway when I was in the porn addiction. So yeah, my advice would be, again, just really think through the consequences of choosing to do certain things, and know that you can do the certain thing, but there's consequences as well. And when you really understand that, you no longer feel like you have to delete things, because you're actually just in control of yourself, and you know you have a choice moment by moment. That's 100% possible for everyone in the world, which is great. So let's get on to, I think, the final and 5th point of this video.
Create something. Create something that you've maybe never created before. So I think creating this video right now is really, really useful for me in terms of like just my overall well-being, just creating something. It feels good to create something, right? I've used that word a lot in the last like 10 seconds, but honestly, this sort of sexual energy, which can often lead to us looking at porn.
Right, we just got to spot that junky thinking there. So, creative energy often leads us looking at porn. That is incorrect. That is a junky thought. If you think that you have a certain sexual energy and that's leading to you looking at porn, then you're probably going to stay in a porn addiction indefinitely.
Is a very creative energy. And I'll tell you why. Think about what that is really meant for. Like, we have evolved to have this sexual energy so we can create other human beings. And that is a very, very powerful energy. The fact that you are created by this sexual energy means that it is powerful. Like, it has literally created a human being. That's incredible. It's magnificent.
I don't know why, I just love how I said it's magnificent. It's just such a funny word to choose, but I'll carry on playing this.
Humans have created such amazing things. And so we want to use this energy in a productive way to actually create things.
This is what I'm basically saying in this video. I have addicted neural pathways. I really want to look at porn. So I've got to use this sexual energy in a productive, creative way. It's like, it's just so far from the truth. It's not correct. Like, the correction is, in that moment, I have desire. I have a compulsive desire. And it's not only porn. It would be, in the past, it wouldn't just be like porn and sex. That compulsive desire would often lead to me eating really unhealthy food, lead to video games, lead to me drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes from time to time, many other things. And so it's compulsive desire. It's not related to our sexuality necessarily. And I think, again, just to get across, I think it is really important to try and differentiate in your mind when you're going through this transformation of your addicted neural pathways and, changing them. I think it's really important to realise that actually getting it all muddled up with sexual transmutation and sexual energy can be really unproductive, because your mind and body will naturally release semen through wet dreams, and so you just don't really need to think about sexual energy. It's going to be something that you maybe gain as a benefit when you've changed these neural pathways correctly, that you have more energy and more vitality and vibrancy, and maybe you naturally become more creative and you want to pursue things more and create more things, and all of that is amazing. But I think it's kind of like focusing on the benefits before actually changing the addictive neural pathways. And so let's focus instead on how do we overcome the compulsive desire, be in control of ourselves moment by moment, and feel really empowered and have this choice of, there's porn there and I can look at porn, but I'm going to choose not to do that and maybe accept some temporary discomfort, think it through correctly, and then you maybe get to experience all these amazing benefits of being creative. But we don't want to try and be creative before we've actually changed the addictive neural pathways, because what's going to inevitably happen is eventually the compulsive desire, these thought patterns, are going to get you to look at porn, and you're going to come up with some sort of justification, excuse, rationalization to engage in that compulsive behavior, one of which could be, I had all this sexual energy, I needed to do something with it, so that's why I went and masturbated and looked at porn. which isn't actually the truth. The truth is your brain is involved in a psychological, emotional dependency on a mind, mood-altering experience, and that is the real reason that you chose to look at porn.
And I think we kind of can easily get caught up in this like cycle of thinking where we think that the world is there and it's like being created for us, and then we have to respond to it in a certain way, and like society and like blaming society for all kinds of things. But like, yeah, there is like the powerful and, you know, like the top 1% have so much more money than everyone else, and you have the media and all of this. But in my opinion, we have so much more power to actually create and transform and change our life and the lives of those around us than we're often told we have. I think people tend to think that we don't, but no, we actually have a lot of like ability and potential to change the world and create whatever we want. You know, you can create whatever you want. You really, really can. And there's evidence through like millions of people who are being creative and creating cool stuff in the world. They're proving that, and there's literally no reason why you can't do the same. So go ahead and create something. Maybe it's like a piece of music that you really want to create. It's a YouTube video like myself. Go ahead and do that, or whatever it is. It can be in your job as well. If there is a side place where you can be creative, then go ahead and be creative. I think that's really important. And especially in 2023, when things are getting a bit more centered around like money and numbers and I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what it is, but like there's a lot of problems in 2023, but I think you can still focus on what you can control and not on what you can't. So they're my top 5 tips. I hope they're useful.
So I think we'll wrap it up there. That was a video from the very, very start of 2023. I actually do really agree with what I was saying at the end there about people having a lot of power to have an influence on the world and make things better and improve both their own life and the lives of others. And I think, yeah, I'm spot on. You know, that is true. I still believe that today. I believed it then when I was in a porn addiction. I believe it now, not being in a porn addiction. So go make the world a better place. Go be creative. Enjoy your life as much as you possibly can. But make quitting porn your number one priority. And I would really just recommend doing that first, because I think once you then do that, everything when it comes to self-improvement just gets so easy, and you don't really need to try and do self-improvement. And I think for me back then, I was trying to do all the self-improvement and be creative and all of these other things, like have my goals and habits and meditation and journaling. I was trying to do all of that, but I'd feel really good like temporarily and on good days, and then I would end up back at porn and just feeling absolutely awful and sort of being these ups and downs and cycles, and it just wasn't really healthy. Kind of had like pretty unstable mental health, I'd say. So I'd really recommend personally, like, yeah, just prioritize, you know, you quit porn and then you do all the self-improvement stuff, but you gotta learn how to change the thought patterns first that are leading you to the porn, and deal with urges effectively in a very specific way and know how to deal with any urge. And then you're going to be a free man to do whatever you want with your life and feel really empowered to change your life and the lives of those around you. So thanks so much for watching or listening to today's episode of the Help Is Here podcast. Hope it's been useful. Go check out the free training, link in the description, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye bye.